animal that looks like a man. Lord, that lamb just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real, real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarm setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pema TV.
Welcome to April 19th, 2013, and it's Friday.
Yes, it is, and I don't have a boat. And for those of you that don't know, they did just catch the second bomber, the younger, disorganized brother who was in a boat.
In Watertown.
In Watertown, and the boat wasn't actually in water, so figure that one out.
It was in a backyard.
That's either karma or irony.
But at least he's alive.
It's true. That's true. We hope that saga will come to an end in the next 3 years as it goes to trial slowly, and CNN milks it for everything it's worth.
And prayers to the families in West Texas.
Most definitely. And Oklahoma City, there was a huge explosion there too. It's crazy. Also, we need everybody to make sure, because you've only got about 4.5 or 5 hours, 6 if you're on the West Coast, hours left to go get your tickets at a discounted price for the Lower Catskills Paracon.
No, you have 4 hours, period. 4 hours left to get the discount packages at midnight Central Time. Those prices go bye-bye. Lower Catskills Paracon in 2 weeks, May 3rd and 4th. Napanock, New York. We will be at the Shanley Hotel and the Shewangunk Valley. Yeah, baby.
You said it right
Citizen Center. With Patty Zakis, Mary Gasparo, David Roundtree, Tracy Ray, Jody Cook, Athena Veronis, Deborah Heinecker, Steve Wilson, and Betty Comfort.
And me.
And him. And then our lovely
Our staff.
vendors such as Robin Marie, James McCain, D-Dove.
Yep.
We have candles, we have jewelry, we have herbal, whatever, we have clothing, we have,
Lions and tigers and bears.
Oh my.
Oh my. But just come join us. If you're in that area and you're going to be in that area that time of the year, one, it's a beautiful area. Two, the Shanley Hotel is awesome, and Uncle Sal is salt of the earth. It's worth the trip up there just to meet Sal.
Do you see this? This is not a green halo around my head tonight. This is gray hair because I have 2 weeks left.
Yeah. but come join us. This is going to be a lot of fun, and it's all about meeting people and expanding your network.
And we got some amazing donations for the raffles.
Yes,
We have 2 different ghost
Did you get your notebook?
kits. No, we have 2 different ghost kits. One has EMF detector, a voice recorder, and 2 flashlights in it. And one has a set of a smaller set of, I'm assuming, tarot cards of sorts. It's a 22 card deck, and a pair of dowsing rods. We have jewelry from a haunted manor with an authentication card.
Costume jewelry.
It's antique costume jewelry, but it has an authentication that it did come from the haunted manor. We have books, T-shirts, photos, jewelry. We got a really cool steampunk pendant from Morgan Lynn. Yeah, so I'm all kinds of happy.
Like I said, just be sure and come join us, folks. It's going to be a lot of fun. But you didn't come to hear us talk about this all night. We did that last night.
Yes, we did.
Tonight, we are joined by a very diverse and eclectic, very intellectual and very enlightened person.
She's just lovely.
We had the opportunity to meet her at the Texas Unity Fest, and I've been kind of waiting on this. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
And she is the most charitable person ever. She loaned me her personal Sharpie, and it was the coolest Sharpie ever in the entire world. It's a clicky Sharpie.
Yeah.
And I made sure I gave it back to her. And then I went and bought 2 of my own for this coming one because she's a good influence, and I had to get the clicky Sharpie to be cool like her.
But tonight we're joined by Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
I am great. You know, I am so jealous. How are you? All right, since you were talking about the Central Catskill, Lower Catskill Paracon, how did you go? I mean, I know you're Texas people. What are you doing in New York?
Okay, technically I'm a Missourian.
I'm the only Texan.
Well, okay, but you're here, not there.
You
So-
know, believe it or not, we went up to the Shanley Hotel. Actually, not long after I got laid off, when we lived in St. Louis, it was one of those kind of things where people would think, well, you cancel it. Well, we're not going to let it cancel it. We planned it for too long. We'd heard too much about it. We went up there. We met Sal. We actually broadcasted a show from there. Broadcasted the investigation the next night. I mean, we had a lot of fun.
And I've spent roughly the last 2 Halloweens up there.
Basically.
Oh, how cool.
And the
I mean,
location, the location is one of those. It's one of those places that once you go, it kind of gets in your blood.
Well, that's what it says. The spirits keep calling you home. But we were trying to figure out how to work it, and then we found out that we could actually rent the Citizen Center right next door, directly across the street. So we have room for all the vendors there. We have room for the speakers and investigations and everything else in the hotel. So it's a double venue.
That's cool. I was just kind of bummed. I'm heading to New York in June, and I was like, dang, I could totally go. Or not. But I'll be there doing some book signings in the Lower Catskill area. So I guess where the Shanley Hotel is not far from my old stomping grounds.
Napanock. All 4 square blocks of Napanock.
Right? It's up by Ellenville.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will be going. Actually, I'm doing a book signing in New Paltz, which is not far from Ellenville.
Right.
And then another one in Albany in June, on the 21st and 22nd
Actually,
of June.
you can actually see. You know, if you've been up there, then you've heard of the Witch's Bowl, correct?
I mean,
up
I'm
on the
from
mountain.
that area.
Well, it's up
Originally.
on the mountain, the Witch's Bowl. You
I
can
don't know
actually see the
anything.
Witch's Bowl up there from.
Yeah, when you stand in the street between the Citizen Center and the Shanley and look toward the mountains, there's where the Witch's Bowl is. It's a big dip in the mountain. It kind of looks like a huge cup, I guess you'd call it.
Or a bowl.
Well, a
I mean,
bowl.
I probably have seen it, but, you know, I have to tell you, it's like finding out that hotel is there and what you're talking about, the Witch's Bowl, never heard of it. I had a guest on my show who was talking about all of these really early sites that they think were from the Vikings that are all in that upper northeast area. Never heard of them. I'm like, I'm in freaking Texas now. There's nothing here. Dirt.
Well, there's stuff
and
here.
tumbleweed.
There's
It's
stuff
just
here.
it's just not as old.
Well, no. Well, it's not as old, but there's
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's like St. Louis. I mean, I grew up in St. Louis. Down here, they don't have the same kind of history we have back there because we have Lewis and Clark. We had Dred Scott, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we have our own history there.
Well, I mean, Texas has a diverse history too. It's just not as, how can I say this? It's not as documented, and by that I mean a lot of it is from the Native Americans, the tribes that we've basically pushed out.
Or the Mexicans when they came.
the Incans,
The Spanish that
Yeah.
we kicked out and
Yeah.
didn't take the history. All those people.
yeah. Well, I didn't say we were angels, but it just hasn't been as documented.
At least where we're from, we know how to write it down and say, hey, we did it.
Oh,
You know?
it's gonna be one of those kind of shows tonight.
Yes, it is.
Lord, give them strengths. Also, if you could give our viewers just a little bit of background about yourself. Let me throw this out there real quick. You also do a little radio show called Just Energy Radio, and it was actually today from 2 to 4, correct?
No, it's on. No, I just changed my little header on Skype. I realized it was really old. It is on Thursday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Central Time.
Okay.
Or Eastern Time. So,
Um,
but if they want to check it out, it's www.justenergyradio.com, and we have almost 7 years worth of archives on that page.
And she's been around a little longer than us.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you could give our viewers a little background on Rita Louise and where you've come from, and then there's a description in your bio that I would like you to define for everybody because I've never heard anything phrased quite that way. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm going, what did I write? I mean, basically, what I do, what my primary work is that I work as a medical intuitive, helping people that have health issues, health concerns, and to make it just very simple for people that are not familiar with that term, a medical intuitive is a psychic that talks to you on health levels. And so just kind of putting it out, it's kind of like I have x-ray vision. I can look inside people's bodies and go, well, there's a tear of the ligament over here, or there's an inflammation over there, or, it seems bacterial, not viral. And I give people insights, on functional levels as well as what the emotional part is that's tied to them being sick. And I also work with people that want to just get a straight psychic reading. They are having problems at work. They have relationship issues. They're looking for some guidance to move forward in life. I mean, because it's really about helping and guiding and healing people. So that's the primary thing that I do. I mean, I do energy work. I do a ton of stuff. I have a lot of different interests. In my spare time, I like to say, that's my day job. And in my spare time, I do go ghost hunting and work as the psychic investigator for some different groups, even though I've been groupless for kind of a while. So that's kind of tapered off, but I've been doing a lot of writing with some of my new interests really going into the ancient alien phenomena and looking at ancient cultures. I mean, I've always had a fascination with art history and anthropology and, where we come from and what do we think of God and how do we relate to God? And, and so this is just kind of taking it in a different direction and moving it forward. So that's kind of a little bit about me. I read a lot.
Well,
So-
and the one thing both of them failed to mention, she's an author. I have the book.
I'm getting there.
No, I'm sorry. It's out there now.
But no, what I wanted you to talk about is what exactly, if you could, define a naturopathic physician.
Okay, a naturopath is a holistic practitioner who works with people, helps people using things like herbs and supplements and homeopathic remedies. And so a naturopath is someone who helps to heal the body using anything that is not invasive. So a chemical is not natural to the body, so no prescriptions. Surgery is not natural to the body, so no surgery. It's not the end all and be all of health, but it really focuses on diet and nutrition, bringing balance back into the body and giving the body the nutrients or whatever it needs to regain health. And so a lot of different areas can fall under kind of the big umbrella. So like acupuncture could be considered a naturopathic practice, homeopathy, naturopathic practice, energy work can fall under that umbrella. If you make it more narrow, it really looks more specifically at nutrition and working with herbal supplements, cleansing, and things like that. So, it kind of has two different categories, a more narrow one and then a much bigger approach. And so that I'm a naturopath. Educationally speaking, because I get that question a lot, the educational requirement is somewhat parallel to being a chiropractor.
Okay. Well, no, I kind of sort of knew what it meant, but I would just wanted you to define it for everybody because
his wife is slow.
Well, and if you need a car analogy, basically philosophically, you're all about tuning up what you've got as opposed to replacing parts.
Well, but they don't replace them. They just chop them out and give them to you in a little jar.
Right.
If you're lucky.
Right.
Sometimes they don't even give you your parts back.
I know, right? When I got my tonsils out, what do you want me to do with them? I said, I want them in a jar. What they do? They threw them in the dumpster.
That's what I'm waiting for in about 20 years. Come down to Big Earl's used kidney lot. You'll be able to supply all your organ needs down at Big Earl's.
But you can't really do any ritual over it and say goodbye and do any healing. I don't know. It bothers me personally.
Well, no, and I was ever since
move along.
Well, ever since my heart attack, I've tried to step back. I was given a lot of prescriptions, and bless this woman's heart, she had to deal with a lot of not only worrying about me kicking the bucket, but I became a real asshole for a little while and very depressed because of the medication. And it's taken me a while to kind of get all that to clean out of my system and start to come back a little bit. And I've started to look into alternate, methods and means, and it was a real eye opener in a lot of ways. You can't count on the stuff because the reactions that I had, they're documented and they're on the 14 pieces of paper they'll give you when you give you your prescription.
And he had all of them, trust me.
But I'm part of only 2% of the population of the millions of people that are given these combination of chemicals that have these reactions, and I did.
Well, and like I said, there is a place for modern medicine. Sure. If you have a heart attack, I don't think getting a supplement's really going to help. And there is a time and a place to take a prescription medication. I think that in America, we're just really overprescribed. Or they'll put you on a medication, then they never take you back off again or whatever. And or tell you that there are alternatives, and if you do this, they'll tell you, well, lose 20 pounds. If you have diabetes or high blood pressure, they'll tell you, well, you should lose 20 pounds, but they don't give you any strategies to do that or make it seem like something achievable, because it's like, well, I could just take this pill. I know so many people that have issues going on. Simple ones that they can take care of by taking care of themselves, and they choose to not make the changes because they can just take a pill. And that's kind of the sad part.
Yeah, usually when I'm prescribed the medication, I have those bottles for years with half the pills still in them. I don't like taking pills. I can. It's not, problem swallowing or anything else. I just don't like taking pills.
In the last few years, I actually had to renew a prescription and I didn't know how to do it.
And
My
Yeah.
husband's a pro though, so he's like, you just call the number on the bottle and you give him the little prescription number and boom, that's it. I'm like, oh.
But isn't that a philosophical issue with us here in the West? I mean, in the East, I mean, you see it on all, like, let's say Anthony Bourdain or the Bizarre Food guy. They'll go over there and invariably when they're in China or anywhere in the Far East, they'll end up in one of the quote unquote medicine shops where you can buy the tail of a spider or whatever you're looking for, and you make your tea, and that's where your herbal remedies come from. And I've heard people giggle at that, and what they need to remember is these people have been around and had documented history thousands of years before we did in the West.
And you're taking a little capsule that may have cyanide in it, and you're laughing at the spider tail.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like what KFC is doing with chicken and why they had to change their name. It's there's stuff going on that people just don't want to realize,
Oh, exactly. I mean, modern prescription medicine, let's say prescription medicine, has only been since the advent of penicillin. I think it's very interesting how quickly, as a society, we have become brainwashed away from working with herbs and working naturally, not even just with herbs, but working naturally, to being dependent on doctors and being dependent on pharmaceuticals. I mean, they tried to, couple of years ago, well, quite a few years ago, make it where you could not recommend supplements to somebody. And so, on my website, soulhealer.com, that's my main website, soulhealer.com, I sell supplements. And so they were trying to make it where if somebody called me up and said, I'm having reflux, is there something that I can take for it? And I make a recommendation of something they can take, it would be that I was, working like a doctor. But in the same way, if you have a cold and I tell you, well, you should eat some chicken soup, I would still be telling you something that could help you on a health level, and so they still could lock me up. So thank God that didn't pass.
Well, a lot of the things I do are still my grandma's remedies. If you have an earache, you put sweet oil and a cotton ball in there. If you have a sore throat, you go with the hot lemonade with honey in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then
I call it old school. Come on, we're going to go old school. And even with me studying, sometimes you have to have your own experiences to really hit home. I mean, I've never done the prescription thing particularly, and but my back had gone out like really bad out. And I was bent over and using a stick so I could kind of walk over to the bathroom because I couldn't stand up straight at all. And so I called my mom and I was talking to her and she said, well, are you soaking in the tub with Epsom salt?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I didn't ever think about that. I mean, that is so old school. And I already had the Epsom salt, and I always have like stinky stuff to stick in the tub anyway. And after laying on my sofa, taking the painkillers and muscle relaxants, I really didn't like the muscle relaxants. The painkillers are always kind of fun, but the muscle relaxants, not so fun. And not feeling better, 2 days soaking in the tub twice a day, I was actually starting to straighten back up. Old school, it works. That's what people have been doing for thousands of years.
Well,
why do we need to ignore it?
Isn't that what they say nowadays, though, is the pharmaceutical industry does not create cures, they create customers.
Exactly.
Well, I call it going grandma because when I was little, I constantly had sore throats. That's why my tonsils eventually came out when I was 18. But my grandma was always, hot lemonade with honey, hot lemonade with honey. You got an earache, get out the sweet oil. So when his youngest son moved in with us, I got an earache. We got to go get sweet oil. You're not putting that in my ear. Oh, yeah, I am.
Well, when my son got, when there was that flu going around, we're talking about like 6 or 7 years ago, and kids were dying, and every time a kid would cough, parents were taking their kids to the doctor. Well, my stepson got sick. His mom took him to the doctor. He had a fever, and so he comes home. Her and her infinite blessed wisdom brought him home. Because it was his time to come back home with his prescriptions, right, unfilled, so that we could fill them. Like, thanks. Anyway, and it was like, for an antibiotic and something. I don't even know what the other one was for. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to get him filled. And his dad was like, what do you mean? These kids are dying and he has a fever and rah, 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 rah. And I looked at him, I said, give me 24 hours. I will break that fever. What do you mean? I go, give me 24 hours. If it doesn't break in 24 hours, I will go personally and go pick up those meds. Okay. So he soaked in a hot bath with like lavender. I had a bunch of, at the time you could still buy bulk herbs. So I had a whole little collection, lavender and this and myrrh and skullcap, and he slept a lot. And in less than 24 hours, that fever was broke. I mean, he was still a little high. He was, 99, but I don't consider that life-threatening.
No. And
then within another day, he was back at school. I tell people he didn't like taking 3 baths a day, but it could happen.
It could.
He's a guy, that just means sometime later in his life he'll only have to take 1 or less than 1 a day for a little while. It all evens out.
Yeah.
No, boys have to take 1 a day because they all come in. I don't care until they're like 18 years old. If they walk out that door in the summer and walk back in, they smell like wet dog. They all do, I swear.
You are also a Reiki master and a certified hypnotherapist.
Correct.
Both of those are energy frequency type work, aren't they?
I mean, the Reiki is definitely energy frequency. The hypnotherapy, I'm not really a practicing hypnotherapist. One of the things that I realized in taking hypnotherapy and trying to use that as a clinical tool in my practice was that I would really just go into trance with my clients. I'm very empathic that way. And so they're like dealing with some kind of trauma and I'm right in there with them. It's really not very good. And, but I use a lot of guided imagery techniques, which you learn that kind of methodology in hypnotherapy with my clients, to help them release pain, experience different things, because again, I do a lot of work health-wise. And so, help them to communicate with parts of their body and help them to connect with their psyche as far as why they're holding on to something or another. So it's all cool. But I definitely believe that we are, made of energy and that our thoughts and emotions affect our health, but, and that is all frequency, and that by reordering the frequency, we can restore health to the body.
Right, and I know I'd heard Tracy Ray and David Roundtree talk about this too, that Tracy being a psychic medium that she is, sometimes she has trouble. Certain readings that she'll do for people are so, their frequency is 180 degrees out of phase with hers, and it just saps her energy because she's having to fight to maintain that connection. And I was just curious if you had any thoughts about energy and frequency, and how is that why some people get along with some people and some people don't? We're all energy, but the frequency is so different? Is that a fair statement?
Or is it just some are just a pain in the bleep?
Well, I mean, I think that some people have like good mojo and then other people not so good. I mean, I think that there is a certain frequency, I haven't really ever thought about that, but I mean, we each vibrate at a frequency. Our life story, all of the things that happen to us change our frequency. And so we tend to hang around or be around people that vibrate more incongruence, or we have more rapport with people that we have a congruent energy with. I mean, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I've noticed is that the people that end up being the closest, personally to me, are always the black sheep in their family. And so there is that, and I don't know if it's because of the life experience or because you've been through so much, you have that same emotional energy vibe in your pattern that attracts you to that person. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense to me.
Versus the cheerleader type, which I don't know that I really have any friends that are cheerleader types. I know they exist, just not really in my world.
Save the cheerleader, save the world.
That's right. I love that show. I can't believe they ended it.
Yeah, well, that's what they do to all the shows that make people think, except for Nova. Nova has been able to transform itself over the past, 30 years it's been on. It's still a viable show. I still enjoy watching it every now and then.
When Duck Dynasty's not on.
Yeah, when Duck Dynasty or Honey Boo Boo isn't being...
I haven't watched Honey Boo Boo in almost 6 months, so stop it.
I thank you for that.
No comment.
I'm one of these people, it's either got to be really funny or it's got to be really spooky. There's no... The whole Trekkie Star Space thing, just... The interest might as well be a doorknob.
And what's unfortunate is where her desk is at, she can turn and watch the TV. The TV is at my back all day, so all I do is hear it. So I get to listen to Criminal Minds and Duck Dynasty all day.
Yeah.
Well, see,
and that doesn't have any effect on me at all.
I like dramas. I like mysteries. So I love Criminal Minds, Law and Order, CSI, all those kind of shows. But then like the History Channel stuff. And my new favorite thing is, even though I can't do it all the time, and it is watching shows on History Channel or Discovery Channel that I know I'm not going to agree with, and then my husband and I like talking to the TV set, and so
that's me with CNN.
We'll pull it apart. Well, where the hell did they get that? Where'd they get that from? Well, what book did that come out of?
I spent the better part of the morning screaming at the TV, and finally our friend Lori walks in here and she's like, change the channel. Just change the channel. No, they're not making sense. They're stupid and they need to be all fired.
This last little deal here in Boston, while I commend their coverage, and in some small way I understand what they're trying to do with live television. I don't claim that I could go produce it or anything. But when you have 4 different reporters and one says something and then the other one corrects that one and then another one corrects the third one, the 4th time they got to correct somebody, there should be a producer in the background going, okay, guys, let's try to get it right this time. You would figure.
Well, the one lady reporter called the other one, and she's talking to her, and the one she called said, hang on, I have to take this call. And the other one goes, well, we'll have to come back to her because I think she has to take a call. Really?
On air.
On air.
Like you could just cheer it on.
I don't really know what's going on with people in general. And I don't know if it's just because I'm noticing it more or if there has just been this huge shift. But it's like people just seem really rude lately. I'm just going to put it out there. They just seem really rude. And I'm going to give you an example. So I took my car to be serviced, and to make a long story short, I really don't know what they did on the service other than change my oil, and it was a 30,000-mile service, and actually I was getting ready to drive down to Waxahachie to that event, and I had a idiot light. The engine light had come on my car, and I'm like, well, I brought it in for service. I think they changed the oil. Well, I know they changed the oil. But I don't think they did anything else, like check the transmission fluid or the air filter or, do I need air conditioning recharge? I'm not a car person, fix it. That's why,
right?
That's why I bring it to you to do car things to it. And so I called, because of another issue, but also made a complaint about what did they do? I brought it in 3 or 4 times, and what have they done? And the service manager goes, well, let me pull up your thing. I'm not at the shop. Look, when I get back, I'll pull up your thing and I'll call you back later this afternoon. That was like a month ago. And this is the service manager after me talking to the dealership manager. And it's like, and it's not just them. It's all over the place. You call people up, you leave them a nice message. Can you call me back? And they don't. And it's like, well, don't you people want to make any money? I mean, you're in the customer service business.
Oh, who was it? Someone real recently I was talking to, and it's just like they snap at you and walk away. It's like, hello? I knew what it was. I was calling animal shelters.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
Animal rescues to try to find someone to donate money to from the Paracon we're having. And this one is supposed to be like right there. They have like 4 or 5 different buildings, 9 billion foster families. They have this tour every Saturday. I'm talking on a Thursday on the phone, and I left this message. You know, I'm still waiting for their call. You put out there, you know, hey, I want to donate money to you guys. And nobody cares. But if you go to your Facebook, there's 9 billion save the dog, save the cat.
But I mean, that's the thing. It's like, okay, I have my checkbook open, ready to write you a check, and you can't even return my phone call?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's passive aggressive, and it's almost, it's like Kim said, it's just nuts. It's crazy. It's like, well, I know you want to help.
But it just seems like it's been this last 6 months to a year that it's just become. I mean, is it just me, or have you noticed the same thing?
I've noticed it too, and it's driving, and it falls into people's driving too. Seriously.
Yeah. No, it's not just you, because my co-host and I have noticed, like, in the last 6 months or a year, even people who we thought were close to us, all of a sudden are doing this 180 and going completely a different direction, but they're being like mean in your face before they depart. Where did this come from? It's not the same person.
We have one giant world entity that's controlling and manipulating all of us.
Well, a few of us escaped.
Was it the Call of Cthulhu?
Huh?
I don't know what it is. I think I want to personally blame cell phones. We are so connected, we are disconnected, and it's sad. You know, that's we should be, human interaction should be at an all-time high, simply because not only can you have face-to-face interaction, you can have interaction with somebody around the planet, thanks to the wonderful power of Al Gore's intranet.
But even being at the Unity Fest, how many times did you look up and see 5, 6, 20 people texting someone else who wasn't there?
Yeah, or they're checking their Facebook.
And Steve, I pay a lot of money to carry this little brick around in case somebody calls my office and it can roll to my cell. And then if I'm waiting somewhere, I'll get on my phone and play a game or surf the internet, sorta. I mean, if I really want to be somewhere for a long time, I take my Kindle. So, I mean, I'm very good at entertaining myself, but I just don't understand. It's like, or you drive down the street and people got the cell phone in their head, and you know that this isn't like an emergency situation that you're trying to find somebody's house and you can't get there and your GPS ain't getting you there.
Right.
You know, they got it. They got the, like, you know, cell phone arm, and they have it glued to their head. And it's like, you know, if you drive in your car like this all the time, can't you put a headset on?
My perfect example, when he had his heart attack, both his sons and their wives came in from Arkansas. He had just got done with what was supposed to be a stress test, but turned out not to be a stress test. They sent us all home for a while. I have 2 on one couch, 2 on the other couch, basically facing each other. All 4 have 2 thumbs going, and they're talking to each other on their phones. You're sitting across from each other. Finally, I told him, I said, if I find one more cell phone, I'm throwing it out in the street. And I actually made one of his daughter-in-laws cry because she thought I flushed it down the toilet. Actually, I hid it under the toilet paper, but I got it away from her when I walked by and she was sitting there texting her husband in the other room.
They're good-looking boys, though, so they make up for it.
But they know how to talk. Trust me, they know how to argue. They know how to talk.
Well, and you know that, like I said, it's just sad. And the reason I got off on this tangent is because personally, I'm also of the philosophy that we are all made of energy. I'm a paranormal researcher too. I think a lot of what we're researching is going to be about finding the right frequency to communicate with. But with that being said, that also means that a lot of one reason why, other than the fact that people are just paying more attention to spirits on the other side right now, is all of this self-generated EMF that we're creating with cell phones, with all of the wireless devices that we use now. That could be a reason why some spirits can't leave the planet. There's no normal rotation like there used to be. You know, once you did your time on Earth, you got to leave and go somewhere else in the universe. I don't think people can do that anymore. I don't think energy can leave like that anymore. I think it's grounded here.
Unless you're in Ardmore, Texas.
Well, but all that EMF keeps us from, as individuals, from grounding.
Right.
As well. I mean, because it's not even just the cell phone. I mean, there's the computers, there's the TV set. It seems like we move from one electronic device to the next. And when they're not on, it's almost like we go through withdrawal. I mean, I would challenge anybody who doesn't believe me to turn their computer off, turn their TV set off, you know, put the radio on. Just put the radio on, not on the TV, but on a radio. And notice how your body feels. You feel it go through withdrawal. It's kind of a scary thing.
You know, and people just need to realize that, you know. And heaven forbid you tell somebody that. You know, heaven forbid that you, how dare you tell me what I can't do with my time and my money, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's fine. You know, but there's going to be consequences to pay for that. We've seen couples taking small children, 3 or 4 year old children, very well behaved children. You know, we've seen some of the little, you know, carpet crazies or whatever you want to call them, little
Ankle biters.
You know, whatever, tricycle motors that are out of control. But these are very well-behaved kids, but they're sitting at their table looking at their parents, and their parents are sitting across from them, and both their parents are on a phone like this, and it's like, you have no idea what kind of interaction you're missing with your children. And trust me, Facebook isn't that important right now. But you can't tell people that, and they get offended when you tell them that.
Well, and when the kid cries, they hand them the cell phone.
Yeah.
They don't hold them or comfort them. They just hand them the cell phone with a cartoon on.
Well, you know, but that's another whole thing. You know, we were talking earlier about prescriptions, and then there's how we're drugging up our kids.
Yep.
And the long-term health impact of that level of chemicals and pharmaceuticals that our children are ingesting, and the long-term implications. You know, it's only been in the last few years that they have been able to collect enough data about birth control pills to come up with any kind of conclusion health-wise. Now think about that. I mean, because they have to be used for a certain length of time, you know, to have people go through a certain period of life and a certain life cycle so that they can say, well, you know, over this much time, this has been the result. And many of the drugs that we give to people or our children are all fairly new. And we don't know the impact, especially on children, because they are growing, you know, and what is that doing to impact the development of their body and their organs and their immune system and how their body creates hormones that are going to regulate other things. If you're giving them stuff that is messing with brain chemistry, are you going to make it so that their brain chemistry is now naturally messed up and they will have to take some kind of medication their whole life? We don't know. And our children are guinea pigs in that area. Versus send their butts outside and say, go find a stick and climb a tree and go do something.
And here's a little leaded paint, chew on it, you'll be just fine.
Well,
But I don't mean that. I mean, go burn some energy. My kids, all they wanted to do was play Xbox and Nintendo. And I had a conversation with them one day. One, I think, was 16. The other one was 14. I said, so when you're, my age and you look back at your life, what can you tell people? What can you even say to yourself that you've accomplished by this stage in your life? I go, that you made it all the way to the end of Mario's adventure? I mean, because they didn't play sports, they didn't do anything. And I just look at, myself and my brothers and sisters and kids I went to school with. I mean, we all did stuff. Played sports, got in trouble. I mean, even if they got in trouble, at least it's something they could say they did.
Right. we used to have a biker pack.
Yep.
There was like 12 or 14 of us in the neighborhood, and we'd get on our bikes and just take off and terrorize the neighborhood on our bikes because it looked like a motorcycle gang only on bikes.
And there used to be, I remember a time when there wasn't a warning on a hairdryer that said, please do not use this in the bathtub.
What?
There's a warning on Preparation H that says, do not use this orally.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, folks.
The one thing we can prove at this point is that the Ritalin generation, the group of kids, roughly 20 years ago, who started with the Ritalin, none of them now can fully pull up their pants without underwear showing.
And it's definitely a side effect.
No way.
You look at the generation 20 to 24 right now. They're all sagging.
Well, I mean, I get that, but I don't know that I would relate it directly to Ritalin.
Well, most of them were put on Ritalin by their teachers, which is really sad. The teacher, oh, well, he's got ADD, you must take him to the doctor. And then you get the slip from the office saying, take your kid to the doctor, it's ADD. When we were little, it wasn't ADD, it was you were a brat and you were getting a spanking when you got home.
Right. But that's kind of my whole point is our kids sit around and do nothing all day, on their butt. Versus, did you ever watch Dog Whisperer? It's like where he would tell the people, you need to take your dog out and walk it and exercise and it'll calm it down because you tire it out. I'm sorry. Same thing with our kids.
Yep.
They need to go out. They need to burn off their energy. They need to eat decent food, not McDonald's, not Kentucky Fried Chicken, not, stuff that's all processed and chemicals. And as far as I'm concerned, I think it is a crime to have candy machines and soda machines and junk machines in the schools. Period. It's
I agree.
I was in a Starbucks one morning getting a drink, and this guy came in with his 8-year-old kid and got him a grande mocha frappuccino. I don't drink coffee. I've drank one frappuccino that wasn't even a coffee frappuccino in my life, and it was so sugar-laden that I was halfway through it. Okay, granted, I got a venti, but I was halfway through going, man, I got this sugar buzz going on, but I drank the whole thing, and I just warned everyone. It's like, I just drank this frappuccino. I got this total sugar high going on, so just stay away. But this was a mocha frappuccino, so there was the frappuccino sugar, there was the mocha sugar, and a shot of coffee for an 8-year-old kid going to school. It's like, thank you very much for wiring your child up and sending him to school. And then they wonder why they have ADD. It's like, well, maybe they have like this caffeine addiction going on.
Or maybe at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when the kid crashes, he doesn't have an attention deficit disorder. He's on the downside of a coffee buzz,
Now, I must say this, though. Starbucks do make some of their coffee type drinks without coffee in them that are caffeine free, because Heather got Chloe a caramel macchiato, but it had no coffee in it.
A caramel macchiato with no coffee?
Yes.
Was it just a decaf?
It actually looked really white. I think it was basically milk and
Syrup.
a little flavoring, but my granddaughter's 4 and doesn't know the difference.
Yeah, so basically that would be steamed milk with a little vanilla flavoring and some caramel on top.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing. I mean, it would be like getting a hot chocolate. I mean, because a hot chocolate is going to be, you know, it would have the chocolate in it, and then it would have the whipped cream. So,
Yeah,
you know, but
that-
it's not like this total giant sugar drink, even though
Right.
it's kind of sugary, but it's not. I mean, a frappuccino. I mean, have you ever drank a frappuccino?
Yeah.
I mean, don't
I'm
you
a
find them
coffee
really
addict,
sugary?
though. I'm the biggest coffee hooker there is.
Oh, you're one of those.
She's
Yes,
not-
but
she's not a hooker. She's more of a coffee.
but
slut.
I
That's
do
okay.
I do not force my coffee habits on anybody else.
That's
I will
true.
gladly drink it all by myself. But my daughter, at least, you know, when she goes out, it's not,
Say hi, Jet Li.
hi, pretty. She stopped at Starbucks to get her something, and Chloe wanted something, so she created this caramel macchiato without
Yeah.
coffee for her.
But you know that's
Oh, that's cute.
but that you know that's the thing though is if you think before you do things with your kids, you can include them when you go to places like Starbucks if you just ask.
Exactly.
It's the people that aren't even willing to put the effort into asking.
Go ahead and throw the coffee in there, Izzy. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
No, their kid wants it, and they say okay.
No.
Yeah.
That
I mean, because
yeah.
I would sit there and say, well, you know, that drink has coffee in it. Do you want the non-caffeinated version, or do you want a decaf version? Oh no, just regular's fine. And I, you know, and inside, being a naturopath, inside I'm going, you horrible parent.
I will say in Missouri though they don't allow that they're on a strict nutrition type thing with the schools and the lunches. They don't allow soda machines in the buildings at all.
See,
And-
I appreciate that.
and they're locked outside in an entrance that the kids will go nowhere near because it's near the dumpsters, and that's where the one soda machine is for the teachers. 'Cause I worked in one of those schools, and I mean they got rid of even like the Gatorade and stuff like that. It's not allowed.
Yeah, people just don't understand exactly the huge chemical content that they put in their body. And I'm going to mention a soft drink, and I'm going to mention this soft drink because I know there are thousands, if not millions, of ghost hunters / paranormal researchers that drink this. But Mountain Dew is one of the worst. Battery acid would be better for you to drink than Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew contains what is it called? Brominated vegetable oil, which is also like a fire deterrent and used in fire extinguishers foam. I mean, come on, people. Think about what you're drinking there. Just because Dale Earnhardt has it on his car don't mean you got to ingest it.
But, you know, that's the thing. You hear these companies that, you know, they're supposed to be looking out for our benefit, or you have, you know, our current political group saying, oh, well, America needs to lose weight. You know, diabetes is at an all-time high.
Sorry.
Blah, 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 blah. But then they don't say anything to these companies that produce these products that are awful. I mean, there are products, and I'm not going to name the brand, but it's in all of their products. They make salad dressing, and they make mayonnaise, and they make barbecue sauce.
Kraft.
And it's a very familiar name, and they use something called propylene glycol. Well, propylene glycol is like antifreeze. It's the kind of antifreeze that you can eat. You know, like, so if you ate it, you wouldn't die because it's poison. And it's used as a thickening agent. Well, I'm sorry, I don't need to buy a product like salad dressing that has antifreeze in it. I mean, it isn't keeping me warm in the winter, so why bother?
Well, you know, and that's also a primary ingredient in the add to water energy drink stuff.
What is it?
Mio or
Milo or
do you know what I'm talking about? The little squirt bottles of stuff that you can take
See,
to like your bottle.
I don't do that.
Well,
kind of
I've never
product.
understood that either, but you know, it's a popular thing. And I got to looking at the ingredients, and it's ethylene glycol, which is antifreeze. That's
they're like do the healthy alternative in drinks. Add
calories.
this flavoring to your water, but this flavoring
is worse than drinking a
increase.
Pepsi.
Right.
Here's some boric acid. It didn't have any calories either.
I used to teach a nutrition class, go and do a presentation. I would bring my box of junk, which included, which I think I finally threw away, a bag of Wow potato chips, which thank God did not survive, because they were fried in this oil that was fat-free, no fat, whatever, so they was low in calories, except it had a warning label like a pack of cigarettes on it. I mean, that's scary. If the food you eat has a warning, this may cause digestive disturbances and rob your body of vitamin E. I'm like, and people bought it. Well, not that much because they took it off the market, so that was a good thing.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. The last warning they had put on there before it disappeared was may cause anal leakage.
Yeah.
Oh, so you were familiar? Yes,
Olestra.
Yes.
Yeah, Olestra, and but that was in my little bag of tricks. But then I would do a survey of the class, and I would put out a Pepsi, a Snickers bar, and a Nutri-Grain bar, and I would ask them what would be the healthiest thing to eat. So I will ask you and the listeners, at large, what would be the healthiest thing to consume? Pepsi, Snickers bar, or Nutri-Grain bar?
Snickers.
You guys are good. And so why would you eat the Snickers?
Because at least part of the products, the peanuts, at some point in time were in the ground.
Well, with granola bars, actually,
they have a higher sugar content with the syrup to hold them together.
They have a higher sodium count, and they have a higher fat count.
And the acid in the soda is twice as concentrated as what's in your battery in some cases.
And I haven't drank a soda in 20 years, so I don't care about soda.
And I'm not much of a Pepsi.
Well, I mean, it was really interesting because the soda and the Snickers bar have about the same amount of sugar. And I said Nutri-Grain bars specifically because Nutri-Grain bars, even though they sound and are promoted as being healthy, actually have more chemicals in them than the Snickers and the Pepsi. And the Snickers was the most natural and had protein of all three products. Oh, and the Nutri-Grain bar had a lot of sugar, per little square inch Nutri-Bar. And I'm like, how can they promote this as being healthy? Let's see. Nutri-Grain bar, because they throw like maybe a little whole wheat in it, or Snickers. Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to go for the Snickers, even though I don't like that much sugar, but at least it tastes better.
Right. I could not stand the cakey part of a Nutri-Grain bar to begin with. It was nasty tasting.
And the reason why all this is important, like you mentioned earlier, is when you affect your physical body, you affect your energy levels, and it affects how you feel all over, spiritually and physically.
Exactly. And many times when people clean up their diet and, do some detoxing and start eating whole foods, and people think, well, that's really hard and I don't know what to make. And I go, I'm going to use your line, think grandma, depending on how old you are. Think mom, think, Betty Crocker cookbook. Those things that you go to the supermarket and eat from the edges. You go to the produce department, you go to the meat department, and you take it and you cook it.
Right.
Not in the microwave, but you actually use it for pan and cook it.
And fire.
And then eat it. I mean, because as that is based on the foods that we have, even that's not even that great. They talk about cows being injected hormones so that they're fattened up before they go to slaughter, and chickens. I'm going birds. I'm like, no, we don't eat birds. I mean, we eat birds, but not birds. Chickens are given antibiotics, and so inadvertently we are ingesting stuff that we don't even know we're ingesting. And then you get to the produce area, and who even? I mean, that whole section is a little bit scary. Is it a GMO? Is it irradiated? And one of the things that I've noticed is that even in the produce department, it's shrinking. Or there's things they just don't have. I went to the supermarket and they didn't even have green beans.
Yeah,
No green beans.
ours didn't have radishes.
And then, I mean, I don't know how it is where you guys are. I'm going to assume that it's the same because you're not all that far from me. The produce is nasty. It's like I'm not going to buy some dried up brown green bean or broccoli that's wilty. Or hi Jetly, ooh, big head. That was Jetly, the Kung Fu Kitty.
Ninja.
In case you were wondering.
Ninja stealthy.
You know, and one thing that you mentioned is the GNOs, the genetically modified stuff, and that's scary. And people have no idea. People have really, they don't have any concept or clue. And why? Because they're too busy texting.
Well, but it's also not put out there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's two things that are going on with the GMOs. One, we do not have requirements for labeling. Two, we don't know what products are being produced with GMOs. And if we're getting them, I mean, the irradiation, they just kind of slipped that one by, and they brought it in. I mean, this was a number of years ago. It was bagged spinach. People were getting really sick off of bagged spinach. And they discovered that if they irradiated the spinach, that it took care of some kind of microbe that was on the leaves. I don't really remember the details. And the next thing you knew, everything was irradiated, but they don't have to label that. So they do it, and what impact that has on us, I don't know, but it keeps fruits and vegetables fresher longer. And so when you get those bagged salads, they're all irradiated. Tomatoes irradiated. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that's irradiated. With, you know, what that health impact is, you know, what it does to the nutritional value of the fruit or vegetable, I don't really know. But GMOs, on the other hand, I mean, they're going in and modifying it, and they really don't know the health impact on us. They have had cases of people getting really sick from handling large quantities of it. But even if they're not giving it to us in the supermarket, in the produce aisle, they are already feeding it to animals. And so they will take GMO corn and feed it to the cows and feed it to the pigs. And so now we're getting secondhand GMOs. And so we're already being exposed to it. We just don't even know it. And they, you know, it's like we're guinea pigs on some experiment that I don't understand the point. Is it really all about the money? I mean, bottom line, is it really all about the money?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it is. Yeah. And the only good thing I can say is, go grandma, you know. There are roadside stands. These people pick it out of their garden. I would much rather take my chances at a roadside produce stand than the grocery store any day.
Well, and it's gotten even worse than just, it's worse than gene splicing on a carrot, you know. It's not, it's reached a point where they've started messing with the actual animals. And the reason I mention that is because KFC has done that. The birds that they use are genetically designed to not have feet or beaks and no feathers. They also have genetically increased breast and smaller bones. They actually bred this into the animals and got to playing with the DNA.
Well, didn't one of them do that with the turkeys too?
Well, yeah, turkeys have been like that for years. But I mean,
well, you know, but there's one thing using artificial selection. It's like, well, this chicken has big boobs, and that rooster has big boobs, and we're making a big boob chicken. I mean, that I can get, but when you start doing gene splicing, I mean, some of what they're doing is taking some kind of, and how they do this, I can't even imagine, taking some kind of bacteria that insects don't like, and so they use this bacteria, or had used this bacteria as an insecticide, and somehow taking this bacteria and splicing it with the vegetable.
Yeah.
So now we're ingesting an insecticide.
Yeah.
And what are we finding?
So it's not even like a big
bugs.
boob corn. It's a insecticide. I'm an insect repellent corn.
Yeah. See, and like I said, you have no idea what the long-term effects of of Ritalin and saggy pants will be on the chickens of the future. I mean, nobody knows, and nobody wants to ask these questions. And if you ask them very, very loud, you get quieted. So, it's. I know we kind of went off on a tangent here tonight, but
Can I just make one more comment about GMOs that I think people need to realize? There are a number of farmers who have had farms, either regular farms or organic farms, so they're supplying stuff to the health food stores, the organic farmers. And one of the things that has been happening is that a farmer will elect to use the genetically modified corn, let's say, to grow his crops, or it might be a Monsanto field or whatever that's next to, in the same vicinity as my farm or your farm. And so that grows, and then it releases its pollen, and that pollen is not restricted to just their area. It's flying, obviously because it's pollen, and it's going into my farm, and it's fertilizing my crops. And so now I have a genetically modified crop, even though it is not something I tried to do. Now, the worst part is some of these big companies like Monsanto are turning around and suing the farmer, saying, you have copyright infringement because you stole our product. It's like, excuse me, I didn't steal the air. And just because your stinky product is in the air doesn't mean I stole it, but the government's not even looking at it that way.
Well, and like somebody just mentioned in the chat room, in some of the GMO corn, isn't it actually killing bees? In the pollen dangerous to bee populations? And it's actually, there used to be almost an entire traveling industry on wheels that would go around fertilizing, or pollinating with bees. And some of the GMOs are actually killing the bees.
Well, and that doesn't really surprise me. I mean, I know that there are a number of other countries like India that's against GMOs. I think Pakistan has banned them.
Oh yeah, it's like 60,
it's kind of moving around. I mean, not here, but there were cases that were identified of individuals, and I think it was in India, handling GMO products. They weren't even ingesting it. They were like picking the corn or picking whatever.
Right.
And a number of them had major allergic reactions to it and like broke out in hives and welts and had respiratory distress and ended up in the hospital just due to contact exposure to the products.
Well, what did they say a couple of years ago? America is one of the few countries where children actually have
food allergies.
Food allergies.
Yeah.
I mean, you never hear of someone in Ethiopia being gluten intolerant.
Right.
But when we have an allergy, it is because our body releases histamine. So like when we take an antihistamine, it is to suppress the histamine response. But histamines are dealt with as part of our liver function. Now, what does the liver do? The liver is designed to pull toxins and to clean the blood. And Americans probably have, and this is just me making a very gross generalization, but probably the funkiest, nastiest livers of anybody on the planet.
Probably.
Because we eat so much junk. We're just really a toxic, and going back to our other conversation, emotionally toxic more and more, but a toxic country. And it's okay. We're taught, toxins are good. Pop-Tarts, part of a better morning.
Little chocolate donuts, the breakfast of champions.
Lucky Charms.
Hey,
they're magically delicious.
As long as you don't try to take my Captain Crunch away from me, we're going to be okay.
Peanut butter Captain Crunch.
No, the Crunch Berries. You got to have the Crunch Berries.
No, peanut butter.
Anyway, it all cuts the top of your mouth wide open.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. The kids of this generation have had soft foods for so long. We need to give them some foods like we had when we were growing up, like Pop Rocks and Captain Crunch that cut your mouth wide open, and the pizza rolls with the nuclear filling. So when you bite into them, you get like that third-degree burn going on.
And Zots. So when you bite into it and the saliva hits the powder, it fizzes in their mouth and scares the snot out of them. Yeah, Zots.
Yeah, but then they would like try to charge you with, child endangerment or something. I'm sure they'd come up with something.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same charge they had to give the guy who's giving his 8-year-old a grande cup of coffee before school.
I don't get it. Give kids juice. Make sure it's real juice.
Hey, when I was little, I had coffee with my grandma. It was called a cup of milk with a teaspoon of sugar and a teaspoon of coffee.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways of doing it, but people have gotten lazy.
Yeah, very.
There's just no other way of putting it.
It's easier to drive through or text it.
Yeah. Or both.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, in the next 30 years, 40 years, or let's say next 30 generations, we will be a planet of people where our primary digit will be our thumb, and it will be as big as our head. And that'll be an Olympic sport. Will be texting.
That's if we're still here. I mean, one of the things that I believe other people don't necessarily agree with me, I don't think, is that because of the way that we're ill-treating our bodies, in the United States in particular, there is a parallel to issues with fertility. I mean, haven't you noticed that in the last 20 years, the number of women that are unable to conceive naturally has gone exponential?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think it's because if I have a bad set of genes and then I have a child, now that child comes into the world with a bad set of genes, or I'm not eating correctly and so I'm not giving that child nutrition or whatever, so it comes in with a bad set of genes, and then maybe we do some open heart surgery, or maybe we do some kind of repair, and then they have a child, but their nutrition's really not that good either, and they have a child. It's like we're not passing along the best. We're passing along something, and we're making the assumption that, well, since it worked in the past, it's going to work still. And I think that, our energy, our vitality is weakening and is creating a lot of other issues, a lot more childhood cancer and stuff like that, and fertility issues in women, as an example.
I would agree. It's all about your environment, and you are, as cliche as this is, I'm going to say it, you are what you eat.
And you may live to be 100, but it's going to be a lousy life. Mm-hmm. Because you know what? All you're doing right now at this point is eating preservatives.
Yeah. But you're not preserved. I mean, that's the sucky part.
Right. Now, fortunately, in my family, if you don't drink alcohol, the women live beyond. We stick around long enough to be a pain in the butt to our great-grandkids.
She's not lying either.
No, I'm...
Buck 25, easy.
Aunt Mary lived to be 105. Aunt Val right now is, 97, 98. My great-grandma lived to be one day shy of 100. And my grandma that just passed lived to be 97. We hang in there. We don't care. Unless you drink. If you drink, then by the time you're 40, you're gone.
Interesting.
And let's not even get started on the alcohol tobacco industries.
That's a whole nother show.
That'll be next week at 9 o'clock. No, I'm kidding. Let me get this out there so our viewers will know this. You're an author. Let me read off some of these titles.
Go ahead.
Man-Made, The Chronicles of Our Extraterrestrial Gods, Dark Angels, An Insider's Guide to Ghost Spirits and Attached Entities, and I love the title of this one, Avoiding the Cosmic 2x4, The Power Within, that I have signed right here.
I have signed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Meditating on the Kabbalah, which is also, that and The Power Within are also on audio CDs, correct?
Well, the Meditating on the Kabbalah is an audio CD, so it's not. There's no book.
Okay.
And the Power Within, there is a companion CD, and so it's not the book on tape. There are a number of. It's a very exercise-driven book because it actually has tools and procedures you can use to develop your psychic ability. And so it has some of the exercises recorded so you don't have to try to like read and meditate all at the same time.
Right.
Which is, hard unless you have x-ray vision.
Right.
Kind
Well,
of thing.
you can get that if you get the Vente.
Yeah.
So where can they get your books and CDs?
I mean, you can get all of my books or information about myself, about getting a psychic reading or a medical intuition evaluation at my primary website, which is soulhealer.com. That's SOULHEALER.com, soulhealer.com. And that's kind of the portal to everything Rita Louise.
It's her one-stop shop.
Well, I mean, I have like 5 websites, but you can access all of them the easiest, and that website has probably about 700 pages to it. So there's a ton of articles. I have my new thing is I have been producing these little video learning things, and they're all about 10 minutes long. And so the last one that I did was called Ghosts, Gods, and Myth, and it looks at ghosts in mythology and asks the question, why did the gods get all of the play if we had a belief in ghosts that goes back as far in time as our belief in God? Ooh. But so it's just these little videos. They're cool because they got all this like I don't want to say animation, but images. It's kind of like watching a documentary on TV, but they're only like 10 minutes long, so they've got music. They're cool.
Well, I know you have a book signing in New York area in June. Do you have any other events coming up?
Okay, so let's see. May 18th, I will be at the Granbury Paranormal Expo in Granbury. And then in June, I have the book signings, one in New Paltz, one in Albany. And I'm trying to think, and then we're around till September, and so I don't think I have anything really till September, which I think it's a little early to start putting that information out. But then again, every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m., they can come hang out with me on Just Energy Radio, and because we talk about everything from alternative health through UFOs and everything in between.
Okay, I know it's a little early, but will you be at Marshall Hotel in October?
Marshall Hotel. I have not heard about
Unknown.
that. Is that the one in Oklahoma?
East Texas Paranormal Convention.
They never invite me to anything.
Really?
I don't know. what
We'll
that's
get you
about.
invited.
I'm going to yell at him.
We'll get you invited.
Is that Unknown Paranormal
Yes.
event?
Uh-huh.
They never invite me to anything. It took twisting arms to even have me on their radio show, even though they've known me for years. I don't get it.
I met you once and had you on. That should tell
I
you.
don't get it. I don't get it.
No, that means I'm a lovely person.
That's because you guys are cool.
No.
Well,
yeah. Well, yeah.
And Mike doesn't do that stuff. I'm not quite sure who organizes their stuff or
Kevin.
takes care of the radio show, but maybe he doesn't like me. I don't know. I'm kind of likable, I think.
You are, and I'm going to give him 90 Kinds of Hades because that's probably our next chance to see everybody around here. Because we have Little Green Men in August, and then we have that one in October.
You would probably get a kick out of the Little Green Men too, Rita.
So what's the Little Green Men?
You've heard of the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter?
Oh.
1955, aliens came down on the Kelly,
Kentucky, and they terrorized a family. The
Lucky Sutton.
Lucky Sutton and his family, and the descendant of Lucky Sutton is Geraldine Sutton Stith, who's wrote a book
Alien Legacy.
Alien Legacy, and she's done presentations at MUFON, so forth and so on.
The town wouldn't speak of it, wouldn't nothing for years and years and years, and finally they got a new chairperson who's like, you know what, this is worth looking into.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 2 years they've had an annual festival, Little Green Mondays Festival, and the third one is August 16th and 17th, I think.
Well, and what's cool is that incident encounter was where the term Little Green Men got coined. That's why it's the Kelly Little Green Men Festival.
And it wasn't because the little men were green, they were actually silver, but they saw a green glow on the ground when the police got there.
Oh.
Yeah. And
That's cool.
It's really cool. They've got the town. It's a throbbing metropolis of about 500 people. Maybe there will be 500 by this year in August, because the triplets are due. Anyway,
right.
But it's a very the town is doing it right. They're all the proceeds are going to building and helping that community. The first year there was about 1,000 people that showed up, which was mostly local residents and in that area.
No, they had 2,000 the first year. They had 4,000 the next year. And actually, a bulk of the proceeds are all going to build the Lucky Sutton Memorial Park after Geraldine's dad.
There you go. So I mean, they're doing it right. This is what America's all about. This is what small town America is supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a ton of redheaded babies in those strollers. Yeah. They are adorable.
Oh my goodness! And there's this year they've had really great music the last 2 years. This year it's actually going to be a battle of the bands. So they're actually going to have varying kinds of music and entertainment all day long. I'm sure I'm pretty sure they won't have any Kill the Puppy type Swedish hardcore black metal there.
But it's old school. It's cake decorating contests and what do they call it? Cornhole toss competition. Which is the beanbag sacks in the holes type thing.
Oh, I was like, my mind just went nasty.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we all do, unless you're from there, but they call it cornhole. But I mean, it's old school, but it's a fun festival.
That sounds like it.
It's really neat.
And last year, someone decided what the heck and built a 30-foot replica of a spaceship with lights and smoke and everything. So they're bringing that back this year.
And it's got like music and two or three fog machines, and all the lights around it light up in a pattern, and it's got like a little dome on the top where there's a little green man.
I think the door drops down.
Yeah, music going the whole time. It's cool.
That sounds really cool.
But like I said,
I'm gonna have to go check that out.
It's just a lot of fun.
That's what it is.
It's just a lot of fun. And as much as I hate to do this, Rita, to make this fit on YouTube, we're running out of time.
Well, okay. Well, it was really fun hanging out with you guys.
We need to do this more often.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you ever want to hang out, I'm around usually, kind of.
Well, absolutely.
If I'm not busy doing something else.
Well, and I do another show on Mondays that
Yeah.
It's called Just Saying. Mary and I do it on Monday evening. So when you get a Monday, we'll hook you up.
Okay.
And then you can come by with just the girls and you can talk bad about him.
Ain't she subtle?
We can just talk about our bad boys, huh?
Yep. Mary's got a bad boy. His name's Vinny. His real name's Rick, but his alter ego, the bad boy side of him, is Vinny. We love Vinny.
His inner zombie.
That's right.
Lord.
No, I have Wayne. My family calls him Wade. Like, whatever.
I respond to a lot of 4-letter words.
Yeah, there is that.
Well, my real name is Eric. My nickname is the Yeti.
Your daughter calls you GBSD.
Yeah.
GBSD, my daughter calls him, it's genuinely better stepdaddy.
Yeah. So
see, my stepkids just call me the Rita. Or there's, they'll say Rita to me, but then if they have to, describe who I am, it's like, well, she's the Rita. So that's kind of like Mom. but not. I'm the Rita.
Well,
And I totally own my title.
Eric has one son that calls me Kim, and he has another one who calls me bitch.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I don't care.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
thank you so very much, Rita. It's always lovely seeing you.
And you too. And hanging out. I had a really good time. Soulhealer.com, everybody.
Absolutely,
Soulhealer.com.
soulhealer.com. Get the books.
Yeah.
And she signs them in lovely gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
And they can find
Sometimes
you
I get lazy.
on Just Energy Radio, on justenergy.com, right?
JustEnergyRadio.com.
Every Thursday night from 7 to 9
Central Time.
Central
Exactly.
Time, which
So
will
it's
be
8 to 10.
8 to 10.
Eastern Time.
Yeah. And with that, folks, if you're going out investigating this weekend, be safe, be careful, don't eat any genetically modified corn.
If you're not going out tonight, later on there's a show on.
Yes, at midnight tonight. Please join us
Eastern
at
Time.
midnight Eastern, 11 o'clock Central. Please be sure and join us for the Alchemical Artisans Hour
That's right.
with Tarot Title and Luminaria Star.
And with that, guys, we are getting out of here. And don't forget, you have 2.5 hours to get your
Discounted
package
tickets
discounts.
for the Lower Catskills Paracon. And with that, I promise we're done now. We're going to leave.
Bye.
Bye.
Cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set. Let's turn off these lights. Cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys!
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pema TV.
Welcome to April 19th, 2013. And it's Friday.
Yes, it is. And I don't have a boat. And for those of you that don't know, they did just catch the second bomber, the younger, disorganized brother who was in a boat.
In Watertown.
In Watertown, and the boat wasn't actually in water. So figure that one out.
It was in a backyard.
That's either karma
But-
or irony. One of
But
those.
at least he's alive.
It's
He's
true. That's true. We hope that saga will come to an end in the next 3 years as it goes to trial slowly and CNN milks it for everything it's worth.
and prayers to the families in West
Most
Texas.
definitely. Most definitely. And Oklahoma City, there was a huge explosion there too. It's crazy. Also, we need everybody to make sure, because you've only got about 4.5 or 5 hours, 6 if you're on the West Coast, hours left to go get your tickets at a discounted price for the Lower Catskills Paracon.
No, you have 4 hours, period. 4 hours left to get the discount packages at midnight Central Time. Those prices go bye-bye. Lower Catskills Paracon in 2 weeks, May 3rd and 4th. Napanock, New York. We will be at the Shanley Hotel and the Shewangunk Valley. Yeah, baby.
You said it right
Citizen Center. With Patty Zakis, Mary Gasparo, David Roundtree, Tracy Ray, Jody Cook, Athena Veronis, Deborah Heinecker, Steve Wilson, and Betty Comfort,
on. And me,
and him. And then our lovely
our staff.
vendors such as Robin Marie,
Marie.
James McCain, D-Dove.
Yep.
We have candles, we have jewelry, we have herbal, whatever, we have clothing, we have, yeah.
Lions and tigers and bears.
Oh, my.
Oh my. But just
To
come
me.
join us if you're in that area and you're going to be in that area that time of the year. One, it's a beautiful area. Two, the Shanley Hotel is awesome, and Uncle Sal is salt of the earth. It's worth the trip up there just to meet Sal.
Do you see this? This is not a green hay.
the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real, real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarm setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set. Let's turn off these lights.
Oh, how cool!
And the
I mean,
location, the location is one of those. It's one of those places that once you go, it kind of gets in your blood.
Well, that's what it says. The spirits keep calling you home. But we were trying to figure out how to work it, and then we found out that we could actually rent the Citizen Center right next door, directly across the street. So we have room for all the vendors there. We have room for the speakers and investigations and everything else in the hotel. So it's a double venue.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I was just kind of bummed. I'm heading to New York in June, and I was like, dang, I could totally go. Or not. But I'll be there doing some book signings in the lower Catskill area. So I guess where the Shanley Hotel is not far from my old stomping grounds.
Napanock. All 4 square blocks of Napanock.
Right? It's up by Ellenville.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will be going. Actually, I'm doing a book signing in New Paltz, which is not far from Ellenville.
Right.
And then another one in Albany in June on the 21st and 22nd
Actually,
of June.
you can actually see. Do you know if you've been up there, then you've heard of the Witch's Bowl, correct?
I mean,
up on
I'm
the
from
mountain.
that area.
Well, it's up
Originally.
on the mountain, the Witch's Bowl. You
I
can
don't
actually
know
see the
anything.
Witch's Bowl up there from.
Yeah, when you stand in the street between the Citizen Center and the Shanley and look toward the mountains, there's where the Witch's Bowl is. It's a big dip in the mountain. It kind of looks like a huge cup, I guess you'd call it.
Or a bowl.
Well, a
I mean,
bowl.
I probably have seen it, but, you know, I have to tell you, it's like finding out that that hotel is there and what you're talking about, the Witch's Bowl, never heard of it. I had a guest on my show who was talking about all of these really early sites that they think were from the Vikings that are all in that upper northeast area. Never heard of them. I'm like, I'm in freaking Texas now. There's nothing here. Dirt.
Well, there's stuff
and
here.
tumbleweed.
There's
It's just
stuff here.
it's just not as old.
Well, no. Well, it's not as old, but there's it.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, it's like St. Louis. I mean, I grew up in St. Louis. Down here, they don't have the same kind of history we have back there because we have Lewis and Clark. We had Dred Scott, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we have our own history there.
Well, I mean, Texas has a diverse history too. It's just not as, how can I say this? It's not as documented, and by that I mean a lot of it is from the Native Americans, the tribes that we've basically pushed out.
Or the Mexicans when they came.
the Incans,
The Spanish that
Yeah.
we kicked out and
Yeah.
didn't take the history. All those people.
yeah. Well, you know, I didn't say we were angels, but it just hasn't been as documented.
At least where we're from, we know how to write it down and say, hey, we did it.
Oh,
You know?
it's gonna be one of those kind of shows tonight.
Yes, it is.
Lord, give them strengths. Also, if you could give our viewers just a little bit of background about yourself. Let me throw this out there real quick. You also do a little radio show called Just Energy Radio, and it was actually today from 2 to 4, correct?
No, it's on. No, I just changed my little header on Skype. I realized it was really old. It is on Thursday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Central Time.
Okay.
Or Eastern Time. So, but if they want to check it out, it's www.justenergyradio.com, and we have almost 7 years worth of archives on that page.
Wow.
And she's been around a little longer than us.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you could give our viewers a little background on Rita Louise and where you've come from, and then there's a description in your bio that I would like you to define for everybody, because I've never heard anything phrased quite that way. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm going, what did I write? I mean, basically, what I do, what my primary work is that I work as a medical intuitive, helping people that have health issues, health concerns. And to make it just very simple for people that are not familiar with that term, a medical intuitive is a psychic that talks to you on health levels. And so just kind of putting it out, it's kind of like I have x-ray vision. I can look inside people's bodies and go, well, you know, there's a tear of the ligament over here, or there's an inflammation over there, or, you know, it seems bacterial, not viral. And I give people insights, you know, on functional levels, as well as what the emotional part is that's tied to them being sick. You know, and I also work with people that want to just get a straight psychic reading. They are having problems at work. They have relationship issues. They're looking for some guidance to move forward in life. I mean, because it's really about helping and guiding and healing people. You know, so that's the primary thing that I do. I mean, I do energy work. I do a ton of stuff. I have a lot of different interests. You know, in my spare time, I like to say, you know, that's my day job. And in my spare time, I do go ghost hunting and work as the psychic investigator for some different groups, even though I've been groupless for kind of a while. So that's kind of tapered off, but I've been doing a lot of writing with some of my new interests really going into the ancient alien phenomena and looking at ancient cultures. I mean, I've always had a fascination with art history and anthropology and, you know, where we come from and what do we think of God and how do we relate to
Halo around my head tonight. This is gray hair because I have 2 weeks left.
Yeah. But come join us. This is going to be a lot of fun. And it's all about meeting people and expanding your network.
And we got some amazing donations for the raffles.
Yes,
We have 2 different ghost
Did you get your notebook?
kits. No. We have 2 different ghost kits. One has EMF detector, a voice recorder, and 2 flashlights in it. And one has a set of a smaller set of, I'm assuming, tarot cards of sorts. It's a 22 card deck and a pair of dowsing rods. We have jewelry from a haunted manor with an authentication card.
Costume jewelry.
It's antique costume jewelry, but it has an authentication that it did come from the haunted manor. We have books, T-shirts, photos, jewelry. We got a really cool steampunk pendant from Morgan Lynn. Yeah, so I'm all kinds of happy.
Like I said, just be sure and come join us, folks. It's going to be a lot of fun. But you didn't come to hear us talk about this all night. We did that last night.
Yes, we did.
Tonight, we are joined by a very diverse and eclectic, very intellectual and very enlightened person.
She's just lovely.
We had the opportunity to meet her at the Texas Unity Fest, and I've been kind of waiting on this. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
And she is the most charitable person ever. She loaned me her personal Sharpie, and it was the coolest Sharpie ever in the entire world. It's a clicky Sharpie.
Yeah.
And I made sure I gave it back to her. And then I went and bought 2 of my own for this coming one because she's a good influence, and I had to get the clicky Sharpie to be cool like her.
But tonight we're joined by Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
I am great. You know, I am so jealous. How are you? All right, since you were talking about the Central Catskill, Lower Catskill Paracon, how did you go? I mean, I know you're Texas people. What are you doing in New York?
Okay, technically I'm a Missourian.
I'm the only Texan.
Well, okay, but you're here, not there.
You
So-
know, believe it or not, we went up to the Shanley Hotel. Actually, not long after I got laid off, when we lived in St. Louis, it was one of those kind of things where people would think, well, you cancel it. Well, we're not going to let it cancel it. We planned it for too long. We heard too much about it. We went up there. We met Sal. We actually broadcasted a show from there. Broadcasted the investigation the next night. I mean, we had a lot of fun.
And I've spent roughly the last 2 Halloweens up there.